6 years ago, I was on my knees in my dorm room at 2 a.m. crying and praying for a way out. I just failed another class. My parents had stopped believing in me and I only had $47 in my bank account. Tonight, I'm sitting here having made millions of dollars online, and that same prayer I made 6 years ago is the foundation of every single thing that I've built to date. Now, this isn't a story about business strategies or marketing tactics. This is about how two things, faith and focus, took a broken college kid and completely transformed his life. And if you're watching this feeling lost, feeling like you're not enough, feeling like your dreams are impossible, this one's for you. My name is Ibrahim, and this is the most honest conversation I've ever had about what really changed my life. Let me take you back to that night 6 years ago. I'm sitting on my dorm room floor, surrounded by my chemistry textbooks I can't even understand, looking at my phone showing yet another text from my parents asking how my doctor journey's going. But I'm not becoming a doctor. You see, at the time I was failing 3 classes. I was failing chemistry, biology, and calculus. I was basically failing everything. And the worst part, I didn't even want to be a doctor. I never did. I was living someone else's dream and failing at it. My own dreams felt so far away, so impossible, that I didn't even dare to speak them out loud. But that night, something truly broke inside of me. Not in a bad way, in a necessary way. Like when a bone has to break before it can heal even stronger. I got down on my knees and I prayed. Not for success, not for money, not for anything specific. I just prayed for guidance, for clarity, for the strength to become who I was actually meant to be. And in that moment of complete surrender, something shifted. I felt this quiet voice, not audible, but undeniable. It was telling me, trust me, trust the process, and trust yourself. Now, that prayer didn't change my circumstances immediately, but it changed something deeper. It changed my relationship with uncertainty. For the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need to have all the answers. I just needed faith that the answers would come when I needed them. The next morning, I made the scariest decision of my entire life. I walked into my advisor's office and said, I'm gonna switch my major from neuroscience to marketing. I wanna pursue business. And she looked at me like I was crazy. My GPA wasn't that great. I had 0 business experience. I had no connections in the business world, no money. So on paper, it made absolutely no sense. But here's what I learned about faith. It's not about having certainty. It's about taking that next right step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. And that step, for me, was switching majors. That was my first act of faith in myself. But faith without focus is just wishful thinking. I had to learn how to channel that faith into laser-focused action. You see, most people think focus means working 16 hours a day, grinding until you burn out. But that's not focus. That's just busy work with 0 direction. Real focus is about clarity. It's about knowing exactly what you want and why you want it, and then saying no to everything that doesn't serve that purpose and vision. Back then, when COVID hit, the first thing I noticed was that personal trainers were losing their jobs at all these gyms. So I could have pursued 10 different business models. I could have pursued e-commerce, real estate, crypto, trading, whatever the case is. Everyone was trying everything. But I had faith that I was meant to help people, and I focused on one thing. And at the time, I focused on helping fitness coaches get more clients online because I saw a massive gap in the market. And while doing so, I focused on one niche, one problem, and only one solution. That focus, guided by my faith, led to my first $10,000 month. But let me be real with you. Faith and focus don't make the journey easy. They just make it possible. There were months where I made $200, months where I questioned everything, months where I wondered if my family was actually right, if I was just wasting my time chasing fantasies. I remember this one specific week. Man, this week sucked. I had 20 sales calls scheduled and all 20 people said no to me. I was sitting in my apartment looking at my empty calendar for the next week, and that old voice of doubt started creeping back in. Maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you should go back to focusing solely on school. Maybe you should go back and get a real job. But this is where faith becomes your anchor. Not faith that everything will be easy, but faith that everything happens for a reason. Those 20 rejections, they taught me that I wasn't asking the right questions on my sales calls. That failure was actually feedback in disguise, and focus became my compass through the darkness. When everything felt chaotic, when I didn't know what to do next, I would ask myself this question: what's the one thing I could do today that moves me closer to helping more people? Sometimes it was putting in more reps, making one more call. Sometimes it was just learning a new skill. Sometimes it was just praying for strength to try again tomorrow. But the thing is I never stopped, because faith gives you reasons to keep going when logic tells you to quit. And slowly, very slowly, things started to change. Now, I want to share something I've never talked about publicly before. During my lowest point, when I was really struggling, I went back home from Michigan State University to visit my grandfather. My grandfather was the wisest man I ever knew, and he had this way of seeing right through you. I'm sitting there in his den, talking normally, trying to act like everything's perfectly fine. But he looks at me and says, "Ibrahim, do you pray with fear or do you pray with love?" I didn't understand what he meant at first, so he explained it to me in the most simple way possible. He said, when you pray with fear, you ask God to save you from things. When you pray with love, you thank God for what's coming. That conversation changed everything for me. It was at that moment I realized I'd been praying with fear, afraid of failing, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of not being enough. But from that day, I started praying with love, thanking God for all the challenges because they were making me even stronger. Thanking God for the rejections because they were leading me to better opportunities. And most importantly, thanking God for all the uncertainty because it was teaching me to trust. When you shift from fear-based faith to love-based faith, everything changes. You stop fighting against your circumstances and start flowing with them instead. And that's when my business really started to take off. Not because my circumstances changed, but because my relationship with my circumstances changed. And it was 6 months after that conversation with my grandfather, I had my first $50,000 month. But the money wasn't even the real breakthrough. The real breakthrough was knowing that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, doing exactly what I was meant to do. See, when you combine faith with focus, something magical happens. You stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the process. I'd wake up every morning, pray for guidance, and then focus completely on serving people. Not on making money, not on getting famous, not on proving anything to anyone, just on solving real world problems for real world people. And the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, started conspiring to help me reach that goal. The right opportunities showed up, the right people found me, the right partnerships formed naturally. But here's what I want you to understand. This was not luck. This was the natural result of aligning faith with focused action. When you truly believe you're being guided and you focus that belief into consistent daily action, you become unstoppable. Not because you're forcing things to happen, but because you're allowing them to happen through you. And that is when I understood what my grandfather meant. When you pray with love, you're not asking for things to be different. You're expressing gratitude for the perfect unfolding of your journey. So how do you actually live this? How do you specifically combine faith and focus in your daily life? First step, every morning I start with prayer. Not asking for things, but expressing gratitude for what's already been given to me, for my health, for my family, for my team, for my partners, for the opportunity to serve others, for the challenges that are making me grow. The second step is me asking for one thing, guidance. Show me what you want me to focus on today. What's the highest use of my time and energy? And then the third step, I listen, not for a voice from the sky, but for my intuition. My gut feeling that points me towards the next right action. And next, throughout the day, whenever I feel overwhelmed or uncertain, I come back to these two anchors, faith and focus. Faith that everything is unfolding perfectly, even when I can't see how, and focusing on the one thing that matters the most right now. And finally, at night before I sleep, I review the day with gratitude. What did I learn? How did I grow? How did I serve? What am I grateful for? This practice, this daily combination of faith and focus, it's not just what built my companies, it's what built my character. It's what gave me peace in the middle of chaos. It's what made success meaningful instead of empty. Because what good is making millions if you lose yourself in the process? So if you're watching this feeling lost, feeling stuck, feeling like your dreams are impossible, I want you to know that you're not alone. That feeling of uncertainty that you're experiencing, that's not a sign you're on the wrong path. That's a sign you're about to grow into someone you never thought you could become. Start with faith. Faith that you're being guided. Faith that your dreams were placed in your heart for a reason. Faith that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. And then add focus. One step at a time, one day at a time, one prayer at a time. Your breakthrough is not as far as you think. Trust the process, trust yourself, and more importantly, trust that you're exactly where you need to be. Keep the faith, stay focused, and watch your life transform in ways you never imagined possible. If you like this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.